You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. In this edition, we'll be looking at physical planning and urban development, especially in the context of a metropolis like Lagos, or indeed a mega metropolis like Lagos. I'll be having the individual responsible for formulating policy in that segment in Lagos State as my guest today. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council, and we're talking urban planning. My guest today is the Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development. He's a trained town planner. He used to consult in the area of town planning, was managing partner of a firm of town planners, has a postgraduate diploma in urban planning, a master's in transport planning. So he's an expert in the field, in the private sector, and then he came into government to manage the process of physical planning, urban development, urban regeneration in Lagos State. My guest town planner, Olutoyin Ayinde, you're welcome to the Policy Council.
Good evening, viewers.
So let's talk about the mandate of your ministry. What does it do for the benefit of the layman? What's the mandate of your ministry?
Now, like the name suggests, it's about urban planning, it's about physical planning and urban development.
Okay.
There is a planning side of every settlement that you see, and then there is a development side of it. Now, to bring it to the door of the layman, because government has what is called the power of eminent domain, so the role of planning lies with government. But because it is not government alone that occupies the settlement space, either rural or urban, the aspect of development is thrown out to every inhabitant of a settlement. So while government plans, all of us develop. So if somebody comes from his village in one state, in hinterland, and lands in Lagos, and one day he buys land, he wants to build a house, he's doing development. But government now wants him to do that development within
consistent with
the concept of a plan. So what the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development is about is formulating policies that will direct the physical planning and urban development of Lagos State, not just
Lagos
the metropolis. It's about Lagos State. And that's why the ministry is in charge of preparation of different segments of plans. We have different hierarchies of physical plans, and then it has agencies under it to be able to implement those plans.
I noticed here in this your 2013 report, a policy trust that says rebuilding Lagos as a model city-state. What's that about? Model for whom? And what's that model? What's the idea behind the model?
Now, the idea of model is to be a model for all of us.
Okay.
The first thing we must realize is where we were coming from. We've been through military era. We've had civilian rule before then, but we didn't last. Now, it has cost us quite a lot. For example, I recollect that in 1980, Alhaji Jakonde had signed into law the regional plan for Lagos State. That's the plan that takes care of the whole of the state. And what a regional plan does is to balance development. So in balancing development, the plan can say, okay, let education be in Ojo environment. So we know that for education, people have to move this way. Or let industries be in Ekpe, they will be there. So as Ekpe is growing, Ojo is growing, Badagry is growing, for one reason or the other, every one of them, Badagry can grow because of tourism and things like that. So after that regional plan, develop the Metropolitan Master Plan, which is a subset of the regional plan, bringing out a few more details. Not detailed enough, but a few more details. Now, what happened? Why we have to say rebuilding? Because after Alhaji Jakonde signed that into law, barely 3 years into after he signed, the military came. And what did the military do? The first thing they did was to suspend planning and disbanded what was known then as the Master Plan Technical Committee that had various stakeholders to see to the implementation of the plan. So if anything was supposed to be done, the technical committee sits down and find out, is this in accordance with the law? So when the military came, there was no longer planning, and then we got
ad hoc development.
We got into a position of anarchy. And what I think it was Charles Abraham that referred to it as obicide, the death of a city in the hands of its own inhabitants. Wow. Because the moment you are not planning, you develop anyhow, you begin to have problems. And like someone I know said, I like to relate planning with order. When you have order, you will not agonize. You are organized. It means you are organized. To have order is to be organized. To plan is to have order. So order means being organized. If you do not organize, then you will agonize. So over the years, we were agonizing until the civilians came again and they saw the need
to resume planning.
So by the time they came, a lot of havoc had been done. So we had to start rebuilding again.
Excellent stuff. Let's take a time out, Honorable Commissioner. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council. I'm talking to a town planner, the gentleman with responsibility for planning Lagos, along with His Excellency, of course. Town planner Ayinde, let me start right away with what I think many Nigerians or Lagosians are concerned with. Building collapses. The time, the cost, the process of building approvals. And then the menace of illegal construction all over the city. Just within the past 3 days, we had another case of a building collapsing on another building and people perishing in the process. What are you doing? First, give us your own perspective to this problem, and then what your ministry is doing to deal with these challenges.
The first thing to do is to ask how we got to this position. Because building is a process, and in fact construction is a science. And to be able to build well, it means you are following some laws or some regulations, and you are following some methodology. Now, it's probably good to ask, how did some of the buildings we are seeing get there? There's a process that if you must build, you approach the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development and its agencies to procure a permit for development. So the first thing is that the law recognizes that you shouldn't build without a permit. Can we ask ourselves, why do people want to build without a permit? Because they don't want a permit. You find people who build overnight. People who realize that government works from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. and then once it's 5 p.m. then they start. I've had
that actually happens.
Oh yes, I've had an alert before. I was called that at 7 p.m. a construction site had just started work, and I had to send out men to go and check. I've been on a site at 10:30 p.m. to go and check what they were doing. I was in a neighborhood yesterday. I left there at 2 a.m. because there was some infraction that was being conducted, and over time, because nobody was checking them, so I decided that, look, in order to get these people, I think I need to record it. And I was there between 12:30 a.m. and 2 a.m. just to be able to find out exactly what they're happening. So people really want to do the wrong thing. They don't want to obey the law, and I think those are some of the areas of
what's their motivation
that we have.
What's their incentive for building at night, just to avoid the permits?
Well, number one, they want to avoid permit because people claim that
they don't want to pay.
It's expensive, and then they claim that it takes a long time. Now, I can confirm that since I came on board, speed in terms of planning approval has increased. I'll give you an example. As a consultant, I processed a 6th floor plan for 5 years. And a 6th floor plan stops really at the desk of the commissioner. But as a commissioner, I have processed a 15-floor plan in 3 months. I've processed in 4 months. We've had developers who have sent text to His Excellency to show their appreciation that this thing came within record time. So really, timing is no longer an excuse. Now, cost. People should ask. I ask people to look at the fraction of the cost they pay for government assessment against the cost
of the building.
Such people who build like that don't want to engage professionals. They say it is expensive to engage professionals. And I ask, what's the fraction of the cost of the professionals against the total building cost? So you find out that it's just because we are unable to measure the value that people are able to give us against the value we get without advice.
And the consequences of doing the wrong thing.
And you know what I tell people is that you are at liberty to take your own decisions. But once those decisions are made, you do not have liberty to change the consequences. For example, the collapse we had day before yesterday. On that same day, the general manager of LAPCA spent the whole day on that axis, on that same street, evacuating people, telling them to move out of distressed buildings. What did she get in return? She got a harassment. She got people jeering at her. And the very place where she parked her car was where that building came down. Wow. So it's about our penchant for impunity. And I think the advantage they also take is that justice system is slow.
It's also part of the consequences of military rule, just like the planners. Let's take a short time out. I'm enjoying this conversation, and I hope Nigerians or negotiators are getting enlightened. We'll be right back.
My name is Laide Awoyemi. I live for Lagos. You see as our new Lagos just defined the good. Good thing good though. To go market now, no hard at all. Just pay. Sit down inside BRT bus. Small time, you don't reach where they go. Hospital call, the full ground. And for me and my pikin where I just born, treatment now free. You look left, you look right. Them they build new roads, new hospitals, new schools, new things everywhere. Everywhere they shine, gone. We thank God though. But come on, I hear saying that this tax money where they pay, and then they use to do all these good things. Yeah, they pay my own tax too. Say they pay your own.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back to the Policy Council. We're talking development, we're talking planning with the Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development. So, Town Planner, let's talk about the structure of your ministry, because I think it has some bearing on what I'm trying to pass across to the viewers. So, you have these 4 agencies under your ministry: the Lagos State Physical Planning Permit Authority, the Lagos State Building Control Agency, the Urban Renewal Agency, and the Urban Furniture Regulatory Unit. Can you explain what each of these does, what their remit is, and how they've been executing their functions?
So what the Lagos State Planning Permit Authority does is to issue out planning permits. So if you want a building plan permit, you go there. If you want a permit to demolish, because you also take permits. People don't know that they have to take permits to demolish. So to demolish, you also take permits. To renovate, you also take permits. To redevelop, you also take permits. Once you have those permits, then you can move on to the Lagos Building Control Agency. The role of the control agency is to monitor the process of construction. So where you have the approval of the plans in Planning Permit Authority, what LAPCA does is to certify every stage. Now the Urban Renewal Agency is about urban regeneration. A few years ago, about 42 blighted settlements were identified. They've grown to about 100 right now. So the role of the Urban Renewal Agency is to identify some of these communities, bring up a proposal and where we can find funding, and then we're able to gradually regenerate them. Some of the projects that we see today that are being done by LMDGP are also part of the work of this agency, bringing up those settlements that need upgrading so that they can become functional. Because once settlements are down, economic power also goes down. You can't do anything in a place that doesn't that is not organized. Then the urban furniture regulatory unit is actually a unit that sees to the location of masts and the safety of such locations.
That's the one where you have problems with the telecoms
industry. Yes.
And their position is that telecoms regulation is a federal activity, but it does seem that with your role, you impinge on their activities.
Yes. Truth is that the federal agency grants license for those masts, but they do not have the power to locate. So we control location. Oh yes, you can have your license, but we have to be sure that you want to make money, not at the expense of the lives of our citizens. So we determine those locations. So that's where we have to.
There's a part of your work that I'm very interested in, excited about, and that's the core of the town planning activity. What you call the master plans, the model city plans, and the area action plans. Can you tell us about that?
First, it starts from the mega. For Lagos State, it is the regional plan. If we were running a good country, we're supposed to have a national physical development plan. Oh, there's probably supposed to be a continental plan that can make one drive on the road from Lagos to Cairo, you know, to Cape Town. With the continental. And then of course we have our own national physical master plan that can let us know that by rail you can go anywhere in this country, you can circle it and things like that. And then we have the state master plan, and of course states that are neighboring to themselves can also have an interregional master plan, you know. So we have the regional plan. From the regional plan, we now have the various master plans. Like the Metropolitan Master Plan, for example, is a master plan, but it doesn't cover the whole of the state. And from there, we went to Badagry Master Plan. From there, we have the Ikoyi VI Master Plan. We have the Lekki Master Plan. We have the Mainland Model City Plan. We have the Alimosho Model City Plan. All of these plans are those that have been completed. We have the Ikeja.
And they are being activated now.
Oh, of course, they are being implemented. Now, for each plan, there is a quick win. For example, the Badagry Master Plan has the expansion of the Badagry Expressway and the Blue Line as a quick win. The Lekki Master Plan has the expansion of Lekki Expressway as a quick win, and so on. So that the private sector can now latch on that and make further development. That's what planning is about. Once you have planned it, things just fall into place.
Excellent. Let's take a final time out. I'm enjoying this discussion. I think I would apply for a diploma in town planning at the end of this. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to my final segment. It's the Policy Council, and we're talking to Town Planner Olutoyin Ayinde, Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development. My Commissioner, let me ask you, one of the complaints I've had expressed about your ministry, it may be even the state government, especially in relation to urban regeneration, is that some of your actions appear biased against the poor. So you want to drive out the poor from Badia or something like that. Well, what would you say to that accusation?
Well, let me say that it probably depends on how you are looking at it. Okay, our government is biased against the poor positively because our own view is that we might meet you poor, but we will not leave you poor. So if there is a place you are living and we think you are not supposed to live there, we won't leave you there.
Exactly.
Because you might not know that you are not supposed to live there. Like somebody wrote a book, what you don't know may kill you. So probably the environment you are living that is bad and you don't know about it might kill you. So, but let's go back to what people are saying, that we are anti-poor. if you look at some of the things we have done in this state, you'll find out that we are rather pro-poor than anti-poor.
Think so, yeah.
Because if you look at the Badagry Expressway that is being expanded and the Blue Line,
or indeed the Korodu BRT, or indeed the whole
Korodu
of the
BRT, you'll find out that it's for
the public
school
school system and all of that.
With every sense of modesty, I have never been in a BRT bus before. You know, so nobody can really argue successfully that we are anti-poor. Then I like to refer to urban regeneration projects. We were at Oluwole and we negotiated with them, moved them out. They had a portion in that project and that place has been built and some of them are back there. There was no complaint. We were in Teju Osho. Oh, Teju Osho was said to be expensive. How would they pay for it? They were asked to pay in installments. A lot of those traders have concluded payment. So they are waiting on us, government, now to come and give us our shops. The so-called poor people. Let's go to the Badia you are talking about. Or let me start with Makoko. When they said that, oh, government was removing their stilts, removing all of these things. You know what came out of some of those so-called huts that you see as you drive on the Third Mainland Bridge? They had flat screen. They had large televisions, which some rich men will not have. Now, when we were having the stakeholders forum, I recollect that one of the residents came there and said that they should pity her, that she has 7 children. Now, which rich man will have 7 children? So some of the people we refer to as being poor are not really as poor as we think. You need to know their commitment to social engagements. You need to know how much they pay to buy ashwebi. So really, this poor thing.
So the poverty is somewhere in the mind.
The poverty is in the mind, and it just depends on the way you look at it. But really and truly, we've done a lot to show that it's for the overall benefit of the poor man rather than the exploitation of the rich man. We're in Okobaba, for example, trying to move that trade from where it is to Agbowa, and we started that project since March last year to prepare first for them bandsaw sheds so that they can move, and until we finish we won't take them off there. So this is a government that is methodical and that has a process in doing some of these things. So I beg to disagree with those who are
Okay, maybe you've explained. Let me take a final issue before you go. This electronic document management system and the GIS that your ministry is trying to what's that about?
Now, first, the GIS is a statewide thing, which started about 2008, 2009. Is to be able to capture the whole of the state on satellite imagery. But what the advantage we have is that that product is to a resolution of about 7 millimeters, so that you can see the blade of grass from it. And it has helped the state government to even know those who added more to their land after state government gave them some allocation. So in what it is able to do is provide a basis for very good planning of Lagos. Now, the electronic document management system is a way of capturing the plans that we have now. You will recollect that many years ago, when plans were processed in City Hall, they used to have what they call microfilm. So there are some buildings that were built in the 40s, 50s. If you go back to City Hall, if you know the address, they will get it out for you. Somebody is putting up a proposal for the renovation of Bristol Hotel. And we said we need the previous plan. He just went there and he got a copy. Now, over the years, when we went through our period of anarchy,
all those disappeared.
All those things disappeared. So if you ask for a building plan that was approved in 1976, you are not likely to get it. So it was when this government came, I said,
so you want to automate that process, so and put all of this.
Automate. So part of those that, some of those that we have approved before, we are now scanning to get them into electronic copies, and then from now on we begin to make everything electronic such that it's easy. With the push of a button, you can get your documents.
Excellent. Great stuff. Okay, I think you've managed to enlighten me and hopefully the rest of Lagosians. Thank you very much for coming on the Policy
It's my pleasure.
We'll be right back. I have a few takeaways from that discussion. First, the connection between military rule and the impunity and disorder that our nation became and that we're just recovering from. Indeed, we're yet to fully recover from. Secondly, the connection between planning and order, or the inverse, the lack of planning and disorder. The Lagos State Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development is, in my view, doing a good job of trying to remedy that situation. But we, the citizens, must do the right thing. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.